know what
Right.
I
It's
mean?
pretty cool because it's like, like I said, like all diets can work to an extent,
Right.
right? All exercise programs can work to an extent. It's not the diet or the exercise program that makes the change. It's you. And if you make that change, you make it a lifestyle, then it doesn't matter what diet you go on or what program you're doing. Like you're going to be successful because you made that change mentally. You change those habits. And then once you do change those habits, the really cool thing is that when you don't necessarily do what is considered healthy. Like if you have some sort of indulgence, like I had 3 glasses of wine last night, we were celebrating.
Right.
I don't feel guilty about it anymore
Sure.
because living healthy is a lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's not like, oh crap, I broke my diet because I wasn't supposed to have X, Y, or Z food. It's just part of your life. And then tomorrow you just get right back to normal.
Yeah, that's so true. I see people just beating themselves up over cheat days and
Yeah.
things like that, and it's
Yeah.
crazy, especially if you're like what we're talking about is building strength, building a
Right.
little bit of muscle, because when you have that, you get to eat a lot more and get away with it.
Right. You do. I'm hungry like all the time.
It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. So tell me, like, so since you obviously empower people to decide what programs work best for them and to kind of discover this stuff, I'm interested in knowing just what does Nagar do for her particular training program right now?
Okay. Well, yeah, like I'm glad you said right now because it does vary, right?
Oh, I
It's
hear you. I'm
yeah.
like doing hand balancing one month and then like weightlifting the next month. Yeah,
It can't always be the same, number one, because you will get bored.
sure,
But it's interesting how you can take something like lifting weights and take it in so many different directions so
sure.
that you're still working on strength and you're still working on like similar skills, but just doing them in a different way.
Right.
So whereas I was previously doing like 3 solid lifting days per week, now I do more so like I have one heavy day. So I have one day where I focus on like the 2 lifts that I'm really trying to increase the strength in. So right now my heavy day is squats and pull-ups. Then when I finish those heavy lifts, I might do some sled work or something that's like fun and metabolic, but still kind of has that strength component to it. So
Like a
that's why I
power
like the
output.
sled.
When you say
Yeah.
strength day, are you working on singles, doubles, 3 reps?
Under 5.
Under 5.
Always
Okay.
under 5 on my heavy
What are
days.
you
Yeah.
pulling up these days? What are you chinning with?
I actually lost a lot of pull-up strength because right before my wedding, I suffered a really like intense back injury. It was just like a really old injury flared up
That
while I was
sucks.
vacuuming of all things.
It's the worst. It's
It
always
was
when you don't expect it. I got to pick that Kleenex up and right?
like, holy crap, I'm not going to be able to walk down the aisle. Like,
Ugh.
this is the worst thing ever. Everything turned out fine, but I couldn't move. I couldn't even walk for a few weeks.
Oh,
So I didn't work out for close to 4 weeks.
wow.
And it's amazing how much strength you lose.
Yeah.
Um, but I've actually switched grips recently. And so I'm working more on increasing my underhand chin up grip and
Sure.
my parallel grip. Whereas before I had worked up to about 50 or so pounds on an overhand pull up.
Woo.
Well, now I'm working more on like triples, and working with like loads of about 30 pounds on different grips.
Perfect. I'm such a big fan of neutral and chin grip or rings. I'm not like I don't feel right doing
Yeah.
regular pull-ups as much these days, so
Yeah. I mean, I think you just gotta like switch it up and see which grip is working for you. And that
sure.
changes too. I used to hate chin ups. It used to hurt my elbows and now it doesn't. So,
Yeah.
I just got it's all about just being intuitive and being okay with like when you go in and you're like, this is the exercise I'm doing, and then you do it and you're like, this doesn't feel good. Being okay with just on the spot changing it, you
Totally.
know?
I couldn't
Yeah. And
agree
that's
more.
how I train. So even though I have that heavy day, it's not like, oh my gosh, this is what I have to do today. It could completely change based on how I'm feeling.
Sure.
So, yeah. And then on top of that, I do a couple of days that are more metabolic resistance. So I'm still focusing on strength, but I'm doing a lot of single leg work, a lot of body weight stuff, but doing it more like in a timed sense. So
Sure.
it's almost like cardio, but I'm still lifting. And then when I'm not lifting, I'm doing yoga, and that's kind of like my less intense activity. I walk
Good
a
for you.
lot, like every day at least 12,000 steps. So I use my Fitbit.
Oh, I got
So.
to get one of those. I have a treadmill desk right here
I was actually just on the treadmill
oh
desk.
man, I live for my treadmill desk. I love that thing.
I think it for entrepreneurs, for creators, people who create things from their computers, a treadmill desk is like a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And everybody's like, I don't have a treadmill desk. I was like, I built this one out of plywood.
Oh wow, we got like got one as a wedding gift.
Oh,
So
there you go. Lucky you.
it was like the best wedding gift ever.
That's fantastic.
um, yeah, but movement, just like everyday movement, is super important. We also have this really cool, amazing hill by our house,
Mm.
and so I can just go out there anytime and run hill sprints and not feel like I have to schedule it. It's literally like a 2 minute walk.
Oh, right.
That's pretty cool
I
too.
have to convince myself that I like hill sprints, and when I'm doing, you know what I mean? Like I'll go there and hit the hills, and I'll be like, "Oh man, why the hell did I do that? That was so hard." I love them. I think they're great, but it's
Right.
hard for me to get my head to do it. You know what I mean?
It is. It's daunting because you're like looking up at that thing and you're like, I get,
Totally.
get to the top.
I get pre-workout anxiety for a bunch of different stuff. You know, like I gotta row 1,000 meters right now. This is gonna be so brutal. Oh man. So that sounds great. I think you have a great program there. Lifting kind of heavier once a week, to kind of titrating it back down a couple days a week. I really like the fact that you're doing some recovery work in there and walking. I tell everybody, like, if you're trying to get a habit of exercising, the first thing you need to do is get a habit of walking, and then you can build from there. That's
Yeah.
so fantastic. You mentioned one thing I'd like to touch on, which is tapping into your intuition with training.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I was doing gymnastics and I was doing like a little spinny move thing, and my intuition told me to stop. And I said, screw you, intuition. I'm going to keep going. And I ended up tearing like an ACL, MCL, LCL, quad,
Oh,
meniscus. Like it's been the worst injury I've ever had.
that's
And
terrible.
so now I listen to my intuition because of that lesson. And so, how do
Yeah.
people tap into this?
Well, there's ways that you can do it in a more regimented fashion.
Sure.
So I have a really good friend of mine, Dave Delanave, who is actually married to one of my best friends, Jen Sinkler. He runs a gym out of Minneapolis called The Movement, and he does what's called biofeedback testing. And so it doesn't matter what program you're on, what kind of lifting you're doing, what kind of exercise you're doing. The whole biofeedback testing concept is that you're going to test right now what works for your body, and a lot of it's based on range of motion testing. So like you'll do, like a range of motion test where you bend down to touch your toes, and you stop at the first time. Then you perform whatever exercise it is that you're trying to do, and then you perform the test again. And if it's improved, then you tested well and it goes in like that exercise. If the test doesn't improve or gets worse, then you have to do something else, right? And test that exercise. So actually, really, he wrote, if you want to go to delanov.com, he writes about it. And that's a great place to have a regimented, intuitive training approach. If that's not something you're interested in, then I think really just being in touch with your bodies. Like, it's amazing to me how much we don't listen to our bodies. How much people walk around with pain and they walk around feeling like garbage all the time, and that's just what they're used to.
All right, we just had a little blip in the Skype right there, but I was just asking Neghar about intuition. So, Neghar, maybe you could take it away. How do people cultivate intuition with their training?